I'm going to let him do the demo. Talk to you soon.
Hey everybody, we're going to try this again. So hopefully you've seen the portrait of Stan Lee that I did using these same materials. I had the whole video for it, and whatever happened and it never got recorded, and that was really unfortunate. It was a really cool process, but that's okay. I've got another drawing all sketched out here, and I'm going to attempt this again using the same stuff. So this is the 140 pound cold press watercolor block that was sent to us by Speedball. And I've got the Art Graph carbon disc here, and this thing is pretty cool. You can use this like a crayon. You can use this. I use it like a watercolor palette. So I get my brush wet, and I just dip it in here and I apply it, and it works really well. I'm also using a watercolor palette, or just a palette rather, that I can dilute the carbon or the graphite in if I need it to be a little bit more transparent. My brushes, I'm using the silver black velvet brushes. So I've got a couple different sizes here that I plan on using. These are the main ones that I use in my work, and then for the background, where I may need a little more coverage, I use some flat brushes. Nothing special, just it is what it is. So bear with me, I'm not too much of a talker. If there's any questions that you guys want to know about Amber and I, that please feel free to leave things in the comments below. That would be awesome. We always read the comments, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Maybe we'll answer the questions in another video. So I'm treating this stuff like watercolor, and so I'm wetting out the background again a bit, and you can see I just drop this on, so it'll be like a wet on wet technique, and it absorbs. I mean, it treats itself just like any other water soluble paint. It goes through really nice. The blacks surprised me. I was really anticipating the blacks to be more gray and less dark than what they turned out to be. It was quite impressive. Again, just like watercolor or anything like that, the more water you have on your brush, the more diluted the materials are going to, or the pigment is going to be, and it dries a little bit lighter than what you might expect. But it works. It works really well. Here we go, some nice blacks here. And it reactivates, which was a pleasant surprise. much like watercolor, where it takes a little bit to reactivate it, but it's not out of the question. So you can feel a little bit more confident if you were to need to put washes over top, that it's not going to just wake up and start doing its own thing, much like a gouache would. You see, as here, just a little bit of scrubbing, and the graphite just wakes right up, and you can start blending in a little bit better. So just recently, Amber decided that she wanted to, okay, let me back up a little bit. Just recently, even more recently, Amber had a little accident. She took a fall, and she shattered her shoulder. So she had to step back from painting as much as what she would normally be painting. That was the first step, I guess. We both have been wanting to do more in the realms of traditional art, and doing altars is great, and it's fun. Altars for Magic the Gathering cards, if those of you who are not familiar. It's great and it's fun, but you're limited to the style. You're limited to the style of the artist that produced the original work, assuming that you're doing extensions, for example, like we were for the most part. So I was helping her out a lot on the altering the cards, and showing her some techniques, because I'm an artist by trade. I'm a creative media supervisor for a manufacturing company, the marketing department for a manufacturing company here in the United States. So I do a lot with audio, visual, 3D animation, stuff like that. So I don't get a whole lot of opportunity to play around with the traditional arts like I would really like to. So given the opportunity, given the chance to do so, we both jumped on it. So and in doing that was when we picked up, or she picked up rather. I just kind of assisted every now and again, altering Magic cards. And so we did that for a while, and we very successful. We altered several decks for several people, and that went really, really well. We got a lot of great feedback on that. And but like I said, when you're doing extensions like what we were doing, you're limited to the style of the art from the original artist, the guy who developed the cards. And there's not really much room. I mean, unless you're up for designing your own, or making the your own interpretation on those cards, there's not much room in the way of this really exploring some stuff that you might otherwise not have the opportunity to. Plus, you end up working in a really, really small canvas, and again, just more limitations, and you need to stretch. You need to be able to get out there and just do new stuff and more stuff, and otherwise, when things like this happen, you get you don't feel trapped. So because we didn't want to feel trapped, we decided that maybe this is a good opportunity to step away from magic cards and to jump into something, and hopefully our audience appreciates that, or can appreciate that, and at the very least will support us as we move forward in this. We're having a really good time exploring watercolor and gouache. We've got some oils, water-soluble oils that we want to explore a little bit in the future. But we were given this opportunity from Speedball. They make a lot of great materials, specifically inks and pens and stuff for lino carving and things like that. And which is something else that we've done. You've probably seen Amber's cat that was done off of the idea from, or not the idea, it was done off of the illustration that our son Parker, or Drawn Roughly on Instagram, designed for our cat tokens. So we made a cat little block carving out of that, and that turned out really, really cool. And so they sent us a bunch of this stuff. Well, not a bunch, I say a bunch. It was this pad, like I said, 140 pound cold pressed watercolor paper, and the carbon disc from Art Graph. They sent us those, and asked us to let them know what we thought about it. So I thought that was really awesome. So I started doing the first one this morning. I did that picture of Stan Lee, and I don't know. I record right now. I record off of using my phone, and I have a TV, an Apple TV here in my studio, and I had the reference image. I was screen sharing it from my phone up onto the TV so that I could see it while I was painting, and then I was recording on top of that. So apparently you can't do both, and if you can, maybe I just screwed it up somehow, which is completely possible. But when I was done, all I was left with was nothing. So little frustrated there because it was really cool, and I shared some good stuff with you. I don't know, and so it's weird. I don't know if I feel like I'm repeating myself, and I'm not really repeating myself because you never heard it the first time, right? So there's that. Like I said, I'm pretty quiet, so just talking like this through this process is a little weird for me. Okay, so sometimes, I'm sure that there are people who have gone through this as well. When you're creating stuff, when you're creating art, and you're going through and you feel like, man, this is bunk. This is garbage. I don't know what I was thinking. It just isn't working out the way that I wanted it to. How long am I going to go before I decide to stop and throw this in the trash? This happens to me often. This is one of those times, quite honestly. I mean, this is not necessarily going the direction that I thought it was going to go. But this is what I do to combat that. I keep going. I keep going. Eventually, I'm just going to keep massaging this thing, and I'm just going to keep working it. And eventually, I'll get something out of it that I'll be like, holy crap, that's really neat. And so one of the things that I've learned over time is, at least for me, and it's probably depends on the different styles that everybody has, and I'm not saying what I do is necessarily going to work for you. You just have to kind of figure that out for you. And but I don't try to beat the artwork into submission. I let it tell me what it wants to do, and go that way. And that's part of the reason why I prefer to really work with organic materials, like this fur that John wears, Jon Snow wears. It's very organic, and I can just kind of go in and hit it, and I know that it's going to do what it wants to do, and I'm not going to be so arrogant enough to think that I'm going to beat it into submission. It's going to react the way that it's going to react. Now I can say, hey, I want shadows specifically in certain spots, and it will more than likely comply and put shadows in those spots. Now what those shadows look like are completely up for debate. And I generally leave that up to the material that I'm using to tell me what those shadows are going to look like. Now, it's not to say if I need them darker, I'll make them darker. If I need them to feather out more, I'll feather them out more. That's so don't misunderstand. I mean, I'm not completely letting it walk all over me, but I'm not being so what's the term? I'm not being so arrogant to think that my will make it bend to whatever I need it to do. That's just not how. That's not how nature works. This is not how my style is. And let it do what it wants to do, and how it comes out. It'll tell me what it wants to do. So I try to channel my inner Bob Ross for some of this stuff. If that makes sense. I hope it does. So I'm just going at this, I'm just working in layers, putting the lighter washes down first, and then just continuing on darker and darker as I move to the top of the geometry or the subject or the surface rather, and as I move closer to to the camera, or to the viewer rather. And then this will dry, and then we can go through like on this side and just apply another layer. Just work in layers. And when I'm done with this, I'll go back through and I'll use white gouache. Gouache, if you're not familiar, is like an opaque watercolor. And there's two types of white gouache. There's a titanium white, which is more translucent, and there's permanent white, which is more opaque. So I'll go through with the permanent white. And I'll put the highlights in and put some more defining marks here and there. And it, just like with watercolor or even this stuff here, the more water you add to it, the more you'll thin it out, and the more translucent it becomes, or transparent it becomes. This stuff is a little bit, even when you touch it, even after it's dry, it is graphite. So it will continue to, I believe, I haven't tried it, but I believe you can erase it. I mean, it will come off on your hands, just like pencil lead would. So I'm just going through, and what I do, if you haven't figured it out yet, I just go through and I block out. I'm blocking the shadows. And this is a very dark piece, so it's taking a little bit longer than what it normally might. One thing to remember is when you're doing the strokes for this stuff, just trying to go in the same direction as what your material is going. So like if you're doing hair, try to make strokes in the same direction that your hair is going. If you're making I don't know, wood, try to go the same directions as what the wood would be going. As you build up your layers, these things will compound and multiply on each other. And if you already have brush strokes going in a certain direction, then it's only going to be better for you in the long run if all of your brush strokes go in a similar direction. It's just going to make it look more natural. I switched brushes. If you hadn't noticed, I went to a little bit smaller one. Start to refining and getting into a little bit more detail. Working on the smaller bits. And then as I now continue to that, I'll go to my other brush shortly as I continue to refine and maybe need to get into a little bit more detail and such. Maybe especially when I start working on the hair. Right now I'm going to take I have a heat gun, my Wagner. You can use a hairdryer. I just go over this stuff to dry it out a bit. Solidifies the layer that I'm working on. Lightens up things that will be naturally lightened. It just hurries up that process. So now let's see up here in this section. I don't like how that's looking so much. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wet a brush, and we'll see if we can pick some of that up a little bit. Try some other watercolor techniques just to kind of see how we can make these things work, how well these things work together. Get a little texture in there. So you see it comes up. Maybe not as well as one might like, but that's okay. It's kind of what this is about, right? again, the amount of water that you use to reactivate or to activate your gouache dictates how this gouache is going to dry. I don't want it like super bright and contrasty. This is more just catching some highlights on his fur cloak as he goes. And again, we can use this, we can go through and you activate it and you feel like, it's like, oh, it's just a little too dark. Well, that's fine. It just work in layers. And the next time, just don't activate, just don't put so much, water in with your gouache. Okay, so I think we're gonna call this. And There you go. So you can see the blacks turned out really nice. The blacks come out nice and black. Really good control over the wash value, going from darks to lights. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this, and I didn't use much of it at all to do this pretty good size piece. So thanks for watching. You can see more of my stuff on or our stuff rather on our Instagram, the Stump Project on Instagram, Stump Project on Twitter, and our Patreon, which is patreon.com/mtgaltergirl. And again, any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Ask away, and we'll get back to you with the answers. Maybe do another video saying what all the answers are. Prints and originals are available on our Etsy. Again, feel free to check all that out. There should be some links in the description. And I will see you in the next video.